Yesterday, it carried winds of up to 140 kilometers per hour, bringing heavy rain and high tides to coastal areas in the state. Many people were forced to flee to shelters after losing their property to floods.
মাঝে মেডিকেলে আছি পেপার টেপার পেতে আমরা শুয়ে আছি হচ্ছে আমাদের অবস্থা এখন খুব খারাপ হ্যাঁ জলটা ঢুকে পুকুরের অবস্থা খুব খারাপ
Water gushed into low-lying regions, inundating several villages. Power supplies were cut off. A West Bengal official said he had not witnessed a storm like this before. Authorities warned it will be a huge challenge to maintain social distancing at shelters against the backdrop of COVID-19. Niha Punia in New Delhi joins us now with the very latest. Niha, how are relief efforts faring in the wake of this cyclone?
Well, for the last few days, the focus really was on evacuating as many people as possible, and it was a race against time. There were more than 1.5 million people evacuated along India's east coast, many of them in the states of West Bengal and Odisha. But in the aftermath of this cyclone, as it moves northwestwards towards the state of Jharkhand and eventually towards North India, where it's likely to weaken over the next 12 hours, the focus is now shifted to relief operations and rescue operations. We're now seeing thousands of army personnel as well as the National Disaster Response personnel teams on the ground who are rescuing stranded citizens. Many villages, about 1,000 in the state of West Bengal, have been inundated. Many of them have been cut off. And the government there saying about 50,000 people have been rendered homeless in the aftermath of this cyclone. Similarly, in Odisha as well, many coastal regions saw extreme inundation, widespread flooding because of tidal waves that were as high as 14 feet. So the focus, officials say, is on rescuing citizens who are stranded in these regions, getting food and aid to them, ensuring medical aid reaches those people who've suffered any kind of injuries in the aftermath of this cyclone. The government Of course, there was extensive preparation, which is why officials say that the loss to life from this cyclone has been minimal, but it will take several days to ensure that normalcy returns to these regions.
Anya, as you mentioned, many homes being lost in this storm, and that means shelters required. And of course, as we just mentioned, authorities already saying there might be issues with social distancing in shelters. Are there worries about a surge following rescue efforts for this storm, especially now some states are looking to lift their lockdown restrictions?
Absolutely, and the cyclone couldn't have come at a worse time because while we are seeing national numbers dip, the states of West Bengal and Odisha, for example, Andhra Pradesh, which was also in the path of the cyclone, are still dealing with a surge in cases, and many rural areas have particularly been badly impacted. And all of this, of course, complicates matters already because resources and energy is now being stretched and diverted from COVID resources to dealing with the aftermath of this cyclone. For example, in West Bengal, we're looking at, according to official figures, about 10 million people who've been impacted. Many of them will have to stay at these relief shelters. We don't know for how long because it will take time for their houses to be rebuilt, for them to be able to travel back to the interior regions where they live. And what the government is saying is that they've set up additional centers. So they've cut capacity at regular relief centers by half. In Odisha, they've set up an additional 6,000 shelters to the existing 900 that were already being used in previous years. Similarly, West Bengal setting up about 4,000 additional relief centers as well. And the government's there saying that they're hoping this will give them enough space to ensure that there isn't overcrowding at these centers, but to make sure that there isn't a big surge that's driven by this situation. They're handing out masks. They've got health teams on standby for the next 2 weeks, and monitoring everyone who was stationed at these shelters will be crucial to ensure that this situation doesn't lead to another big surge in cases in these states.
Oh, thanks so much for all that, Niha Punia, speaking to us from New Delhi. And your Asia Business Update is coming up next with Christine Chung. Industrial profits in China jumped for the month of April over last year, but still the pace of growth slower compared to March. Plus, a French firm succumbs to pressure, putting a cash squeeze on Myanmar's military government. Details on that story in just a moment.
Longing for a tranquil lifestyle? Singapore Property Show presents exquisite developments in the outside central region where peace and serenity await. Where great connectivity means amenities are never too far away. Experience stunning 4D virtual tours of these properties and get expert advice on property investments at our webinars. It's all happening at sps2021.99.co. Register now. The Singapore Property Show 2021 is proudly organised by MediaCorp and our esteemed partners.
This Saturday, could rising inflation derail the post-pandemic economic recovery?
Those parts of the market that are more overvalued could easily get hit.
Relooking China's growth model as its population ages.
Chinese babies are not growing into industrial workers in the future.
Plus, how to be a part of the blockchain boom. Saturday on CNA.
Every day, the financial world goes through dramatic rise and falls. We'll track the biggest market movers and show you where the opportunities lie. Get the experts' take on the performance of key indices. Plus all the analysis to help you understand forces driving global economies. The daily business news you need. Only on CNA. This segment is brought to you by Xeon Corporation.
This is Gabe Ochi-san. I make YouTube videos. While he does bespoke carpentry, I get up close with the new generation of local craft people.
Whatever it took to become a woodworker, I think I did it.
Starting with a furniture artisan.
If you're a CEO, the desk represents you.
Where I keep all my fingers? Handmade Tales, a brand new series, Sunday on CNA.
He's just looking at us with his eyes wide open. Oh, it's so cute.
I'm Shushan, and in this series, I'll be tracking into hidden parts of Singapore.
Oh my God, treacherous!
To find out what's being done to save our biodiversity.
Every animal plays a significant role.
And if we're running out of time.
It seems that there is an uptrend in the number of roadkills.
It's in our nature. Video on demand on CNA.Asia.
Have fun while breaking a sweat on your next visit to Gangnam. Enjoy the weightlessness of bungee fitness. Or learn the health benefits of pole dancing. So don't miss the opportunity to feel the burn with the latest workout trends in Korea. Gangnam Insiders Picks, Sunday on CNA. This program is brought to you by the Gangnam-gu office.
Well, profits at China's industrial firms jumped 57% for the month of April from the year before, after nearly doubling in March, as you recall. So this is a slowing pace of growth from early in the year, when expansion was supported by that low base through 2020 from the spread of COVID-19. Manufacturing profitability last month in China was capped by high commodity prices and a weaker performance in the consumer goods sector. Chinese officials say that some of the consumer industries are not yet at pre-pandemic levels, and they warn the foundations of economic recovery for China are not yet secure, with uneven improvement seen in corporate performance. China's economy is expected to moderate this year after logging record growth in the first quarter. Now, concerns over China's economic growth prospects moderating at that uneven pace appear foremost on investors' minds today. In the mainland, Shanghai and Shenzhen benchmarks, though, have shrugged off some of those concerns in the last hour as they prepare for their lunch break. Both of them are in positive territory, but in Hong Kong, trading of the shares of Next Digital, they resumed today. And despite the performance of the Hang Seng as a whole, Next Digital was surging at least 200% at one point today. Now, about a week or 10 days ago, the assets of their founder, Jimmy Lai, were frozen by the court in Hong Kong. He continues to be imprisoned under the national security law imposed by Beijing. Now, bilateral trade talks are taking place once again between the U.S. and China. China's Commerce Ministry confirmed that the U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai spoke with China's Vice Premier Liu He over the telephone.